Hello everyone, Anita here, and welcome to the very first episode of Anita's Art Chat. How lame does that sound, seriously? But that's the best I could come up with, so bear with me. So what Art Chat is supposed to be is precisely what it says. It's basically me chatting about art and my experiences and hopefully what you're interested in, ideally what we are both interested in. And for those of you who don't like these kind of videos, I've also made sure to put some process speeded art in the background. So if you don't like me talking about things, just mute me and enjoy the video. I was really reluctant to actually make another series. Doing the 52 weeks illustration challenge is really time consuming. It takes really 3 days to actually make a video because I have to come up with a new illustration and then paint it and edit the video. It's really, the painting process is really different once you're actually recording it as well. You have to pay attention to so many different things that you normally would. And then on top of that, I have also different things that have to be done. So yeah, but I really like to do these videos, and I did some thinking and I just thought, you know what, I can commit to a talking video. I never really had anyone to talk art, you know, with, so don't get me wrong, my friends and family are really supportive and they will always listen to me if I need them. But most of the time, yeah, there's this really blank look in their eyes, like they really want to listen to me and they're really paying attention, but they have no idea what I'm talking about. Ideally, I would like you to actually kind of set the tone and topic for these videos. So I would really like for you to comment and tell me what you would like to listen to and what would you like me to talk about. But for this very first video, I made kind of like my art story, where it all started and how it all started, because I don't really, I'm not the only one, of course, but I have a pretty unusual background for someone who actually draws for a living. So yeah, I thought that might be interesting to know. I've been doing creative stuff pretty much my whole life. I'm not going to say that I was drawing my whole life, because that's actually not exactly true. I've been creative my whole life. I didn't have one thing I was good at. I'm one of those people who are, you know, a jack of all trades, master of none. So I can do a lot of things, but I do not, I'm not best at anything. There's plenty of people who are much better than me, and I realized that. And I came to terms with that. I used to think that if I wanted to do something for a living, I had to be the best. And that's not true. So I was pretty much creative my whole life, like I said. And I can remember being creative even in kindergarten. My only memory from kindergarten was when I was creating some kind of silver color out of different colored felt pens, you know, the felt colored pens. And it still makes me wonder what kind of pens they were, if they actually created silver once you've layered them. But that was like, all the children I remember were really impressed, because it was this really nice, really sparkly, silvery color. Actually metallic. That's really, that had to be really toxic now that I think about it. But that was a long time ago too. And I remember this joy that I actually created something, came up with something that nobody has done before me. And that pretty much continued later on as well. I started drawing influenced by anime. If you don't know what anime is, it's basically a Japanese animation. And I started watching it even before I knew what it was. I was, I think, 8 or something like that, and we were watching just this cartoon with my mom about the cities of gold. And then, of course, came different ones, and the Sailor Moon, which was the big breakthrough for me, like for a lot of different girls. But for me, I was interested in drawing only when it was serving me as an outlet for what I was imagining. So I basically wanted to give a physical form to a picture I've had in my head or a story I had in my head. So drawing other things did not interest me at all. My mom always encouraged me because I was good at drawing. It was not best, of course, but for my age, I was better than average. And so my mom wanted me to nurture that. And she encouraged me to try painting different things that normal painters would paint, like still life, landscapes. But I had no interest in that at all. I also had no interest in, well, it's not really like I didn't have interest in that, but because there was nobody in my surrounding that actually was interested or pursued art, that was an actual artist, not even professional, just an artist. So for me, there was no other meaning to being able to draw. I didn't know what to do with that. I remember I didn't even like art classes. In primary school, we did a lot of different projects, but I don't remember them standing out. There was just something you had to do, but you weren't really excited about it and you didn't think about it. And they included a lot of cutting different kind of colored papers. That's what I remember the best. So I really didn't know about things that you could do. That I didn't know there were schools for art. I didn't know that you actually needed classes. And I wasn't really thinking also about my future at all. I had this idea that I had to have a job, but you know, it was just that I had to have a job. You went to school, and when you finished school, you got a job, and that was it. So I wouldn't actually do anything with art for the entire time of my high school, I believe, because of personal reasons. I would copy stuff once in a while. I did a lot of copies back then. I would copy manga shots and different pictures. I was into Titanic back then, so I would draw Kate Winslet, for example. And I would copy pretty much everything, and I would call this beautiful art. And I was very proud of it because, but it was a copy. And it wasn't even a good copy. You know, people can copy things pretty much that they look exactly the same. That was not the case with me. So I'm not really a realism painter, and I never had any interest in it. So the biggest break for me was around the age of 18, something like that, when we got our first internet at home. And with that, I have discovered artists' galleries online, and I've discovered DeviantArt, and I wanted to share my own art, and that kind of pushed me to draw more. So around that time, I've really started paying attention to original ideas. I refused to copy things simply because they were not mine. I couldn't say this is mine. I had no interest in actually copying stuff anymore. And the whole time I would have this thing where I would refuse to do any basic training. And I think it's because I didn't go to any school or didn't have a teacher or anyone that would actually tell me to practice basics. So I would just draw whatever I felt like, and mostly these were anime styled or manga style pictures, just because I thought that was pleasing to my eye. So I liked to draw it, so I drew it, and I would get different ideas without any really reason. There was just this idea I had, and I wanted to draw an umbrella, so I drew a girl with an umbrella. They were mostly female pictures. I still really don't like drawing males, simply because females are so much more fun to draw. You can draw pretty clothes, pretty hair, pretty eyes. Males are just boring. Sorry to all the guys. So when the time came when I actually had to decide what to do with my future, and I had to choose a school, and I didn't know where to go. I was actually naive enough to think that I had a chance to get to the Academy of Arts with pretty much nothing. I had no previous experience. There was a really big exam. It was a 3-day long exam. You had a long exam in the morning and then one in the afternoon. And I have to say that it was the best time I've ever had, just because I had contact with art. I could do all these things, and I knew I wouldn't get in. I realized that on the first day of the exam. I realized that I wouldn't get in because the people that came as well, and they knew things that I never even imagined. But it was still an amazing experience for me. I had so much fun. It was so incredible to be standing in a real art studio with 10 different students. Even though I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get in because I wanted this amazing experience to continue, I was still thankful that I got to actually attend that exam. It was incredible for me. Since I'm completely self-taught, I taught myself Photoshop, and at some point I've imagined that I would become a graphic designer. And I even got a job through a friend, but that was my first contact with the industry, and it was not a good contact. I've earned my money, but I kind of gave up on the dream of becoming a professional. I've realized that at that time, I've realized that art or being a graphic designer was not for me, because I was not happy just following someone else's orders and doing what they told me to do without having any say in it. And I realized, of course, that that's not how every single client would be, but that one particular client was a nightmare, and I am really disappointed in the piece that I've designed that time. So after this experience, I kind of gave up on ever trying to become a professional. Even after I moved to Holland for a very long time, I was just playing with art. And although moving to Holland, I have to say, was a very big experience for me, not only because of course I moved to a different country, but from an art perspective, I had a lot of doors opened to me at the time. In Poland, in my city, I had an experience with one art store. This was an art store for, of course, professionals, so, you know, you got all your painting supplies there, and they were really expensive. And then I came to Holland, where hobby was something that everybody had. And so the hobby was there was a very big market for that hobby. And so I went to a store that sold, you know, appliances, sheets, and all kinds of different little decorations. And I found a section with art supplies in it. There were really cheap art supplies, just basic stuff, just student grade stuff, really bad quality, but amazingly cheap. And I started experimenting. And it kind of really helped me realize what I liked and what I didn't like, and what I wanted to try more. And in the period of, I think, 4 years, I would go through so many different hobbies, and my boyfriend would laugh at me because I would get into some hobby and we would get tons of supplies for it, and then after a while I would decide that that's not it. So the most important year at the moment that I can think of is 2013. And that year I have, without getting too much into personal details, I wasn't very happy at my work, and I couldn't find a work that I would like to do. And it turned out that I'm not the kind of person who just goes 9 to 5 and then does a hobby afterwards, because that actually makes me really unhappy. So I was really in a bad state. That was a really bad state at the time. And so I've started doing more things in 2013. I got into scrapbooking because it seemed like fun. It was more of a mixed media journaling than scrapbooking, let's be honest here. But it was fun. I got a friend to do it with me. It was another new experience because I've never had anyone doing art stuff with me before. And it was really cool. We would meet every Sunday, and at some point I got a little bit tired with scrapbooking and I felt like painting again. So I took out my old watercolors, and whenever the other friend would scrapbook, I would just paint. And I don't remember exactly how it went. What I remember that the general conversation was, why don't you do something with it? You're painting really good. Why don't you just turn it into a business? That was that was incredible way of thinking for me, because in my head, you know, drawing was a hobby. That was something that I learned through so many years in Poland. And I'm not saying that every Polish person thinks that way, because that's not true. It's just that, you know, my surrounding, as I said, I did not have an artist in my surrounding. It was just nobody really to tell me that it was possible. It never crossed my mind. And here was this girl who was just purely baffled that I had a talent and I didn't use it for anything. Who cared if I was not the best? I was good at it. Why wasn't I using it for anything? I mean, if she had it, she would have used it for so many things already. And of course, it was not a process that took 1 or 2 days. I was really fighting my inner demons for a very long time. I mean, at that time, I was really rusty. I've forgotten a lot of things. And it took me so long to just produce one picture. Not to mention, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I mean, I could draw, but what exactly was I supposed to be doing as an artist? And it took really a lot of persuading from both my friend and from my boyfriend, who was really, really supportive. And they were both really like talking me into it, almost like they were trying to push me into drawing, because I was really reluctant. I thought it didn't have any purpose. There was no way that someone would actually buy something made by me or actually hire me because of my skills, because I didn't have any skill. There were so many other artists who were better than me, right? If they are struggling, there is no place for me there. And the big breakthrough year was pretty much 2014. In case you don't know yet, I've joined the 52 Weeks Illustration Challenge. Amazing experience. I talked about it a little bit more in the other video, so I'm not going to go into detail, but the 52 Weeks Illustration Challenge took pretty much my all firsts. I had the first time my artwork had been shared in a magazine, and the first time my artwork has been chosen for an exhibit. And at the same time, I opened my website, I opened my Etsy store, my YouTube channel as well. They're just those steps I'm constantly taking to evolve. So that's a bit of a funny way to say it, but that's how I feel, like I'm evolving as an artist. I realized over these years that it's okay if I'm not the best. That was my biggest struggle. I have to be just the best for who I am, and if somebody will like it, that's the most important thing, right? And that's about it, about my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't bore you to death. And I would like to actually hear your opinion. So if there's anything you would like to ask me, or anything you would like me to address, please leave a comment below. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next 52 Weeks Challenge video. Bye!